Speaking of Eric Bieniemy and your Kansas City Chiefs, what the hell happened? What was that?
Don't do that.
What was that? Kind of lay out the kind of in the back of your head, you've been dreading this moment, the salary cap hit for Mahomes, that tsunami, the water was out and you were out there picking up all the, the crabs and stuff. And well, here comes the water is creeping in now of this monumental contract for Mahomes. How do the Chiefs weather the storm? And what is the prospects of these guys as we move forward into the paying Pat Mahomes era?
Yeah, I mean, they can get his number down to 13. I think the question is whether they want to or whether they should, because kicking the can down the road has been kind of their problem for a long time. The Chiefs have never walked on a good player before. And Sunday's game was a microcosm of what the issue was, because Patrick Mahomes in the first, when I watched the game, and I was actually sitting next to Alex Gordon, the former Royals left fielder, and we were sitting there watching, and Mahomes was so definitive in that game. He looked like he wanted to end the competitive part of that game at halftime. And then he looked disappointed when he didn't, and then he played that way in the second half. And that was the first game in the 4 years that Patrick Mahomes has started for the Chiefs that they've never won a game, an important game, where he's played poorly. And I think that's where you look at that roster, and as much as I like Brett Veach and I think he's made a lot of good choices, that's a failure on Brett Veach, right? The fact is they pay, along the defensive line alone, Jerron Reed $10 million, Frank Clark $25 million, and Chris Jones $20 million. So you're talking about over $50 million, the highest paid defensive line in football. And they can't pick up the team when fully. And I thought the defense played okay Sunday. No, don't get me wrong. They played well enough to win a normal Patrick Mahomes game. But the problem with how they've constructed that roster is they've constructed in a very stars and Jags way. And the stars are rarely stars for that team, except for Patrick Mahomes on the offensive side of the ball with Hill and Kelsey. On the defensive side of the ball, they've invested a lot of money in guys who are not difference makers. And Chris Jones doesn't have a sack in his postseason career. Frank Clark had one pressure Sunday. Tyrann Mathieu, has been a good player for them, but is not a difference maker anymore. And they're going to have to make decisions about how they want to construct the roster moving forward. I don't think that their roster can consist of guys with contracts like Chris Jones's, like Frank Clark's, like Anthony Hitchens making $9 million a year to be a part-time linebacker. They have a decision to make on whether to walk on Tyrann Mathieu. They have a decision to make whether to walk on Orlando Brown. And they've always shied away from making the tough decisions and then had their cap guy fix everything and then kick the can down the road. And this is a time, in my opinion, for the Chiefs to stop trying to win the 2020 Super Bowl again.
Okay. Any concern in the back of your mind that this is a Russell Wilson redux?
Yeah. That's the rule, not the exception, right? I think, Rodgers is the same way. Rodgers hasn't even gotten back to the Super Bowl since he made it in 2010. Obviously Marino put up Patrick Mahomes-like numbers in the 80s and never got back to the Super Bowl after he lost in his second year. Brett Favre had Brett Favre, much like Mahomes, Brett Favre got knocked out by Elway in his second Super Bowl and then never made it back. Pat got knocked out by Brady in his second Super Bowl, never got back. I mean, that's the rule, right? And if I ask you guys, turn it about on you guys, and I made the number 2.5 minus 110 each side, how many Super Bowls would Patrick Mahomes win in his career? What would you guys put it at? What side would you take?
This exact conversation last year, I would have taken over in without thinking about it. Right now, probably taking the under.
Yeah, if it's minus 10 either side, it's an under. Like you said, the variance, the fact that we're not going to see that second bye, or if we do, it's because we're in an 8-team playoff, and then all the byes likely go away, and it's just home field, which is greatly diminished. Even though home field is bigger in the playoffs, it's still it's tough It's so tough to do this. Like, and again, I was never a big Brady guy. I understand like how important he was to the league, but it is kind of wild to think about it when you see like, man, this Chiefs team was just supposed to be like going every year. You think about like what the Patriots did for the longest time. And again, they had the double bye. They didn't have to play 4 games in the playoffs, it felt like. And their division was soft. But still, to just go
the
do
Chiefs
that,
have been that
the
way.
variance.
They've hosted the AFC title game 4 straight years. Like the fact is I kind of think of this as a fan. We're 6 minutes in a fourth quarter against a Kyle Shanahan team away from being like halfway to Buffalo Bills, right? Like, they're lucky they got the one they did get.
There are 3 things that concern me about the Chiefs. The first is how they manage now with the more difficult contract going forward. The second is how long does Andy Reid really have it in him to continue to grind? And what is the transition process if he decides he's going to call it? He's obviously not a young man. And then the third thing is the gap between Mahomes and the next best quarterback cluster is smaller than I realized. And some of that is Mahomes himself coming back to the pack a little bit. And some of that is everybody kind of stepping up their game to a degree. And, I'm not even including whatever's going on with Mahomes' personal life, which is a little concerning in terms of his focus on the game. And, and it's definitely, I don't know, under 2.5, this may sound absolutely stupid in 2 years.
I would be happy if he won one more.
It's so hard to do.
Yeah.
I'd be happy if he won one more. And I think Packers fans, after a decade, would have been happy if Rodgers had tugged just one more, right?
Yeah.
And sure. It's hard. And it's and I will say the stuff with his personal life is real. Like, that it is not like people make fun of it and joke about it, but like those are things that weigh on him. And he has to get those things figured out. I think that was the one thing that Brady, when you think about Tom Brady, and obviously we're resulting because Brady, if you run his career back, wins what, 2, 3, I don't know, but like not 7. Brady had his personal life. Brady had the thing optimized, right, and increasingly so over the course of his career, and that's something that Patrick Mahomes is going to have to do, or it's going to be harder. It's going to be increasingly harder